Oh,
What's up, brother? Can you hear me?
there I can hear you, man. How are you doing? Oh, hey.
How are you?
Oh,
I
I'm
see you
good,
got the
man.
beard, the wintertime beard going on.
Man, I got the always time beard. If you ever cut this thing off, I look like I'm 12 years old.
Well, right now you look like a mountain man.
I'd rather be a mountain man than a 10-year-old. You know what I mean, man?
Yeah, hey man, you're right about that.
So, how are
Hey,
you doing?
one thing when you're one thing when you're dealing with Messenger, did you turn your ringer off?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, so but you understand.
Oh, yeah. So, well, I guess, here's
It's
kind
like
of
a
the
three
first thing.
second delay.
Yeah, we'll have a little bit of a delay. Um,
Okay, then what I'll do is I'll wait at least 3 seconds to answer questions or anything. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. Cool.
Um, I guess the first thing I wanted to ask you is, man, you've been kind of out of the game for a while. We haven't heard a whole lot from you. What have you been up to?
Oh man, it's not that I've been out of the game. Actually I've been training every day, and I train other people. So if the price is right, I always love to get in the ring, man, because it's always been a hobby to me. But man, I stay active 24/7, man.
Man, I always make the joke with people when I talk to them about, we got some pretty high profile fighters here in town, whether it be Bud Crawford or Anthony Smith or anybody like
Yeah.
that. But I'll tell you what, man, you are probably the most recognizable, maybe not the most famous, but probably the most recognized combat sports person here in Omaha. Would you agree with that?
I don't know about that, man. Maybe because I've been doing stuff in my community for a long time. Maybe that's maybe a good reason why a lot of people recognize me. Because if I'm not doing MMA, I'm doing something with hip hop, or I'm doing something with radio, or I'm doing something with television. So I stay out there in the public eye at least to a point.
Oh yeah. So let's talk a little bit about those that don't know you real well. They don't know you from the Omaha community. Tell me a little bit about who you kind of what is it you do around here.
Oh man, well, besides radio, I've been doing radio for quite a long time, but I've been in the hip hop community for a while as well, ever since I was a kid. So I've done. I taught breakdancing classes in the early '90s. So when people were done breakdancing, I was one of the one teachers that was actually teaching it, and it's funny because my crew was on tour for almost 10 years with every known rapper that's been out there. So it's funny. It's funny to even look at some of the old pictures I see that I post. But besides that, man, I, I've been doing MMA for a while, so that's always been a hobby. Radio's been a hobby. Um, and we just started up my Houston Alexander Foundation maybe a couple of years ago, where I go into the schools and teach the kids about hip hop culture. So that's one thing I've been doing, along with I train I train the elderly and younger people for actually free through my foundation as well. So man, there's a lot of things that I'm doing. So I need to slow down sometime.
Man, I remember a couple years ago. I remember seeing a video of you having people roll tires up hills and all that stuff, doing like a fit challenge thing. Is that stuff you're still doing out there? Just trying to get your community more fit, or is that something that's kind of a past
Hey,
thing?
man, well, I think again, the idea came about when I would see a lot of people in the gym not knowing what to do, especially older people. And so, through my foundation, if they go online and actually sign up for it, I'll come to their spot, and I'll give them a private lesson, and actually have knowing how to work out right for their body types. And a lot of people just don't know how to work out. So I think it was just more along the lines of always teaching, and educating people in a way to where it's helping out the community. My way of giving back.
Man, that's absolutely awesome, man. You know, you do so much out there. I know you do. You know, I'll never forget one of the first times I really got introduced to you. Victory J reached out to me. He says, "Man, you got to talk to Houston. Houston's so mad. He's fighting on Bellator. Nobody else is selling tickets. We got to teach these guys how to sell tickets. You know, you're so upset about it. You're like, man, he just needs to talk to somebody." I kind of talked to you a little bit about it. So, you know, as when you talk to a lot of these younger fighters that are out there, and that's how they're making their money is in their ticket sales. I mean, what can you tell them to do with that stuff?
You know what? I believe, and because I come from promotions background, and I was always taught the only person that's going to be that's going to work harder than you is you. So you have to learn how to promote yourself. And a lot of people say, "Well, man, all I want to do is fight." Well, in order for you to promote yourself and sell tickets or get recognized in the game, you have to know how to talk to people. You have to know how to learn to rub elbows with people. And it's not necessarily kissing nobody's ass. You just know how to present yourself in a way where people could understand you. And again, it's talking to people and promoting yourself. So if you don't know your own self, then you can't promote yourself if you don't know who you are. And I just happen to know who I am.
You know, I a lot of time when I talk to guys, especially younger guys, I always ask them kind of what their it factor is. I always, you know, I go to so many fights and stuff that it takes a lot to stand out. And those guys that stand out for one reason or another are guys I kind of really latch myself to. The first one I really remember sticking out to me was Dwight Joseph. I'm sure you know Dwight. Walking out to the cage in his pink karate belt and his white gi and his headband on. You know, I understand not everybody's it factor is theirs. You know, talk about being kind of true to yourself. You know, how does one find that? I mean, if they just find themselves as somebody that just wants to get out there and bang, you know, very much like you, you know, how do they find themselves and find their niche and find that it factor that separates them from everybody else?
Well, you know what? I see a lot of people going out with the gimmicky clothes, with the outfits, and they put so much effort into the presentation. They're not doing what they need to do in the ring. So once you start whooping ass in the ring and winning in incredible fashion, all of that'll speak for itself. And then I guess you'll start getting into your who you are, I guess, as a person outside the ring when you're presenting yourself in the ring. See, I was kind of a no nonsense guy, so you know I came in, I was focused. I don't put no headband on me or any type of cape. I just want to get in there and whoop some ass. And so not everybody's like that. But because I'm able to present myself outside the ring in a different way. But you know, some people, if your gimmick is to you know wear the karate belt or come out in a Darth Vader outfit or do stuff like that, there's nothing wrong with that. But you got to make sure you handle business when you're in the ring, because if you come out and all that stuff and you end up doing like that Fury fight where that guy came out and all that Darth Vader shit and still end up getting your ass whooped, you put more effort into the entrance than you did the fight. So just make sure that when you do all that, you know, that stuff that's entertainment, make sure you're able to handle business when you're in the ring, man. You know, because there's nothing wrong with presenting yourself in a way where people think, oh man, that's awesome. But what's not awesome is you getting your ass whooped after all that presentation.
You know, man, you say you're no nonsense. You say you didn't really have that gimmick, but who's Houston Alexander without the red Nebraska hat on, man?
Oh well, yeah. Well, hey man, that's a cool story all in itself, because it almost didn't happen, man. Now, of course, I'm gonna call you Mr. Rogers, because guess what, Rogers. But hey man, I believe the first, because I always wore the hat all the time when I fought in different cities and different states. But that particular night, I was just gonna come out without my hat. And when we saw our opponent at the time talking shit, we looked up at the screen and was like, "Why is this guy saying all these things? He doesn't even know who we are." And so I told my coach, I said, "Hey man, hand me that hat. Give me that hat." And so I grabbed the hat and I tell the cameraman, the UFC cameraman, I said, "Look, I don't care what you do. You put that camera on this hat." I said, "Don't put it on my face. Don't put it on my torso. As soon as you turn that camera on, put it right there on my hat. We're gonna let these people know where we're from." And as soon as the lights came on, the guy had the camera focused on my hat, and I pointed to my hat, and came out. Was hyped. It was ready to go because, we knew what we was about to do. So, hey man, it almost didn't happen because I was just gonna come out regular until we saw that guy talking shit.
You know, a lot of people talk about, the fact that a lot of the U.S. fighters and stuff don't have a ton of pride and stuff like that, and kind of where they're at. I'll tell you what, Omaha's a little different. I mean, you got Bud Crawford that goes out there. He's fighting for world champions wearing Omaha on his shorts. You got you going out there wearing the Nebraska hat. What sets Nebraska out, and what kind of brings that kind of loyalty to the state for these guys? And, I know you know Bud, so I'm sure you know a little bit about, why he's so representative too.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know what? I don't think it's about the state. I think it's about the neighborhood. I think first of all, people don't think that there's black people in Nebraska. So that's first. And I think coming from the neighborhood that we're from, I remember back in the day when people used to wear the Chicago Bulls hat. They used to wear the New York Yankee hats. The Detroit Pistons. They used to wear other cities or other teams outside of our team. And at the time we had a pretty good football team too. So why not represent where we're from? Because we live here. And I think it was mainly, even with, talking to Bud about wearing the hat. It was for all the people to let everybody know in the neighborhood that y'all with us. Y'all with us. You guys are with us. Whether we're here or there. Well, we got the neighborhood on our backs in a way.
Man, I'll tell you what, since you fought the UFC, it has changed a ton. You couldn't wear that hat out. I mean, look at Cowboy out there having to wear a different cowboy hat that doesn't say Budweiser on it. How do you feel about kind of the direction that the UFC's gone away, gone more corporate and kind of away from the people that built it?
Well, you know what, man? Hey, as everything in life, it evolves. And I don't necessarily hate where the organization is, specifically in UFC has gone, because eventually it was going to happen anyway. It went from this raw and uncut diamond, so now it's this diamond that needed to be showed off in a different way. So raw and uncut and perfectly cut, you got to make sure that you keep that perfectly cut image, intact. So I wasn't surprised when they got the uniforms. I wasn't surprised, when they started doing fights on a regular basis, because at the end of the day, it's a business, it's entertainment, it's business. So whether you roll with it or you get out of it, and most of everybody is rolling with it. But I think what's happening right now with people is that it might be too much. Maybe that's what's wrong with what people are thinking. It's too much, because I guess when you got a pay-per-view back then, it was a build-up to that pay-per-view. There was no other fights before that payper-view. That build-up to the pay-per-view, everyone was excited about that pay-per-view because there wasn't fights on Wednesday or Friday or Saturday. There was the pay-per-view that everyone was anxious to see. So it evolves, man, and we can't hate on it, but because you're still giving a lot of our fighters the opportunity to get in the octagon or the ring or whatever whatever your layout is. But I think it was just the anticipation of the pay-per-view that had people more excited.
Man, I'll tell you what, the sport's changed a lot since you got into it. Kind of when you got into it, it was mixed martial arts. It was you had a boxer over here, you had a jiu-jitsu guy over there, and now it's much more well-rounded. I know you've kind of kept up with it.
Yeah.
How is that? Have you seen that progression come along in the sport as far as converting more from a battle of skills to now it's more of a defined sport?
Well, again, we go back in the day where we had to go to this gym to get jujitsu, this gym to get boxing, and this gym to go get karate, or this. It's funny because you had to go to these different other cities or the different other gyms to get those skill sets. And today, it's more of a business to where the gyms are specifically doing MMA in all their gyms, so it's real competitive. So, but there's something wrong with that. But because I know a lot of the gyms are real competitive. But back then, I think we shared information more because we had to go to this gym, we had to deal with these people, or we had to deal with these people. So we shared information more, and I think they're more specific. Saying that you can't go to this gym, or you got to do all your MMA at this gym and this gym only. You can't go out and do this with these other guys. But I think it was more of an open community back then, to where you trained at this gym and you trained at this gym. You got this skill set, you got this skill set. But now I think it's more specific and it's more business right now. They don't want anybody training at any other gym, so they have MMA in one gym.
Oh yeah. And I do say that everything's become much more well-rounded, but obviously there's still room in the sport for the Damian Maias of the world, the Derek Lewises of the world, the Francis Ngannous of the world. I would assume that you're probably a fan of that guy that's willing to go in there and just throw that big left, huh? You're probably a Derek Lewis fan?
Well, no, I'm a fan of MMA, man. It doesn't matter who it is. I'm just not a fan of all the fake hoopla in the beginning, because they end up hugging in the end. So all that mean promotion at the beginning, and then you end up dabbing each other up and hugging each other at the end. So, I'm a fan of all the fighters, man, that get in the ring.
So, I guess that's something that, we don't really talk about enough in this sport, is that, a lot of guys go out there and they've got this vendetta, and then, this just anger, all of these things. How often is, when something happens like that, how often is that left in the ring at the end of the day? Or is most of the time that just built to build up the fight, and, you're just out there to do a job at the end of the day?
You know what? I think there's a few people I saw that really didn't like each other. Conor McGregor and the kid from Afghanistan.
Khabib?
Yeah, Khabib is a beast, and that was 100% hatred of your opponent in the ring, and that that wasn't made up, that wasn't doctored. Khabib did not like McGregor, so I would love to see more of that, but at the end of the day, how can you be mad when all you guys are making money? It's hard to get angry at someone when we're all making money. So, and we're all making good money at that. So it just all depends on the crap talking all the shit talking you're doing at the beginning, making it personal. And I believe Conor made it personal when he got at Khabib. And you don't see a lot of that nowadays. Just like you see NBA basketball right now. Everybody's chilling with each other outside the ring. So you just don't see a lot of it. A lot of animosity, real hatred towards somebody. Because again, you guys are all making money, but every once in a while, that pair that really don't like each other, and you know it and can sense it and see it. That's why you get all the numbers with the pay-per-view.
So, I know you were the UFC way back in the day, so I know you've got a little bit of a relationship with Dana, you know the guy. How do you feel about all of this UFC 249 action? I'm doing it whether they like it or not. We're going to keep going forward, and then ultimately being told that he can't do it, and then pushing the blame onto somebody else. How do you feel about all of that? Him kind of going against the authority, kind of the sport, what the sport was built on, I guess.
And the sport was built on that, man, being rebels. You know what I'm saying? That's how the sport started off. So, and man, at the end of the day, it's a business, and just like McDonald's, you're gonna find a way to serve them that Big Mac, whether it's through the drive-through or carry out. Hey, man, the UFC is no different. They're a business at the end of the day, and you don't have to have the crowds, but they're gonna continue the fights, and because that's the mentality that these guys have. But, hey, man, we're gonna fight regardless. So I can understand his position, and at the end of the day, no one wants to tank from not having fights. Because they'll lose out majorly if they're not having fights. So they got to continue that going, man, because sponsors, number one. And your views on television, all that's revenue. That's lost revenue, and unlike the NFL, billions of dollars. I think the UFC or any other MMA organization, you got to have the viewership to where these people are always fighting, and it's always in front of you. See, the NFL already got it established. The NBA already has it established. NHL has it established. So anytime they want to insert a basketball game or a football game, it's going to happen. Viewership is going to happen, but it's not the same with fighting. Fighting, you got to build it up. It's got to be a build up. So, man, that's tough. At the end of the day, I can see why he would want to keep it going, because once you stop the fights, no one's going to remember you.
Man, I'll tell you what, I'm super excited about what we're going to see this summer, though. Been a little bit of talk about possibly seeing a Khabib Ferguson, Gaethje, McGregor card. That would be so much fun to see. I'm just, being able to take this long time off and not have any fights, just the cards that we're going to see around fight week. I just can't imagine the fight week cards.
Hey, man, there's been the past couple of months, man, there's been some really good fights, man. And it's funny. The day that it was announced that we'll never have women fight, the women banged the hardest and they banged the best. You feel what I'm saying to you? And watching the women fight, it's incredible, man. But if you stack the card up with a lot of 100%ers, guys and gals who go all out, of course you're gonna have that viewership, especially for us fight fans,
Oh, yeah. It's kind of funny as you bring up the girl fights. It's like, even my girlfriend, I take her to go see the fights. She was never a fight fan before she met me. And she's like, man, there's just something special about a girl fight. She goes, it's different. They just leave it all out there. They're so much more angry.
Hey, man, the girls bang. I've always said that from the beginning. Watching girls fight, even before they got on television. Girls, I'm sorry. Let me bring that back. Women bang. They don't play. They don't play. Look at the champions and look at the women that are in there banging right now. And, I would have to. Hey, that would be domestic violence if I get in the ring, because I don't want no problems with the ladies. They probably beat my ass.
I find it interesting. So Hector Lombard, dates a fighter, a pretty high level fighter. I couldn't imagine the confrontation in their house when things get real.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said Hector Lombard dates a pretty high level jiu-jitsu fighter from down there in Miami. I was like, I couldn't imagine what happens when they get angry at each other.
I couldn't imagine either.
They probably take it out of the mats, I would assume.
And it's this is how real everything is getting right now. We're doing all these interviews. See, we do all these interviews at our houses, and you get to see everyone's house and how people are living, which to me is really cool. And you got the dog in the background. I'm just waiting for my son to come up and ask me a question right now. You get to do all these interviews, and it's real. I think this is a really cool time, man. Even though the crap that's going on outside of our home, I think it's more personal right now. It's more personal.
Oh yeah.
It's one on one. Even though you video chatting with people, it's more one on one. We get to really see how celebrities are living. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's cool.
Oh yeah, it's actually been a lot of fun. This has given us a reason. We've been talking about doing this podcast interview type of stuff for a while, and it's just like now we've got a lack of content. So it's like, all right, we got to do something. Let's start doing this. And I was like, all right, let me start going through my phone book and see who I can call.
Okay. Yeah.
So I got one last question for you. I like to kind of wrap this up with a little bit of a fun question. Fantasy MMA. If you could make any fight from any fighters ever, what fight would you make?
Oh man, what fight would I make? You know what? I got a good answer for you. I would make every fight that I had with people I lost to. Because I was so much better than all my opponents. And I didn't learn this till after being in that situation where the transition game as far as MMA is so important. And me just starting off in the sport, you have to learn how to transition, man, from jiu-jitsu to boxing to judo to all at the drop of a dime. And I think me learning the sport in the beginning, with trying to get so much information drawn to me, my transition was off maybe 2 or 3 seconds, and that 2 or 3 seconds you cannot be off. So my fantasy lineup will be up against anybody I lost to, because right now with me understanding the game and my transition game, it will be a whole different ball game.
Ron, I guess I got one more question for you. MMA Futures, we are focused on the younger guys. We are focused on the younger guys. I know you're out there training. You work with a couple of gyms out there. Who are some guys out there that that we should be watching come up, or girls?
Oh man, there's a lot of guys. Matter of fact, there's a guy right now that's worked with me since he was 15 years old. And you will be the first one I tell this. Watch out for Ron Coleman Jr. Ron Coleman Jr. was the last 4-time heavyweight champion at Omaha North High. This kid is 250 pounds easy and moves like a 125 pounder. He's the wrestling champ from Omaha North High. And this kid hits harder than a lot of grown men, even at 15 at the time. Excuse me. 15 at the time when he first started training with me. Even at 15, he was hitting harder than a lot of grown men I was sparring with. So now that he's a little older and he's in his in his 20s, he's a wrestling coach. He does this, he played football in college, but this is one of the most athletic guys that I know, and he's been doing MMA ever since he was 15 years old. So, and I was wondering when this kid was going to actually break out and start doing stuff, but he was going to have his first fight this year until all the corona incident happened. But if you need to go back and watch YouTubes of this kid wrestling, Ron Coleman Jr. is the guy a lot of people need to be watching out for. This kid, he's doing stuff I've never seen done in the octagon.
Man, so hopefully we'll see him on hopefully a DC show or something along those lines this coming
Oh yeah,
fall or summer, right?
oh, it's definitely coming up, man. I've already talked to a couple of people about him, and this guy, he's a monster, man. He's a natural monster, and when I say natural, his transitions are second to none. Especially when he was training with us older guys, but his transition game is second to none, and I have yet to see anyone take him down. Yet to see this, and only
Wow.
person I can compare him to as far as that goes is Jason Brills. Brillsy, I think one time, and I've been training with Brillsy for close to 10 years. Uh, I took Brillsy down for the first time in 10 years, and that never happened. So I get the chance to talk about it. I get a chance to talk about it live with you. But I took him down, and that was my highlight for the whole entire year because no one ever takes Jason Brills down ever, and this guy is the same way. I compare him to Jason Brills to Ron Coleman Jr. I've never seen anybody take Ron down. Period.
That's awesome, man. I'm excited to kind of see him. I always like to hear about these guys I don't know. Typically, people tell me about people I've already kind of seen a little bit of and stuff like that. So it's awesome to hear about something I haven't seen yet.
You hear a lot about the smaller guys and some of the light heavyweights, but you don't hear about a natural heavyweight who moves like a light guy. So but this kid, hey man, YouTube him or look him up, Ron Coleman Jr.
I'll be sure to check that out. So do us a favor. Tell us, if somebody wants to look more into the Houston Alexander Foundation, things along those lines, tell them how to connect with you, man.
Oh man, go to HoustonAlexander.org. We got all the information on there. You can always hit me up on my social media, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. A lot of the kids are using the TikTok and all those different deals, but you can get at me, but you can get at me at all social media sites. But the main thing, the Houston Alexander Foundation, we're just trying to make our community just a little bit better. And it's a cliche, but it's one person at a time, man. But of course, I'm doing interviews with radio, and soon enough, we got something we're going to be doing with a partner of mine, Michael Dunham, aka DJ Rip. It's going to be a big radio show that's going to be called Culture Shock Radio, where we're going to play music with dope hip hop, and that's something that's coming up, man. So there's a lot of things coming up. So just all you gotta do is just check out all my social media sites, Houston Alexander.
And man, I mean, you are doing live shows from the basement to just keep out there DJing. I saw that the other day.
Hey man, hey, and it's funny because I'll get bored and I'll start just going in. But man, I've been DJing just as long as I was starting off fighting. So shouts out to all the DJs that came before me, man. But yeah, I was DJing just as long as I've been fighting, man. So that's funny.
So I assume you've seen.
I'm also a b-boy because we do, before the corona came up, we were doing dance classes at Genesis on Sundays, and we were doing free classes for the kids or anybody who wanted to do open dance. We were doing that at Genesis, man, on Sundays. So once all this starts back up, man, we're just gonna get back into giving back to the community. And I train every day, man. So it doesn't matter who, where, what, when, how. I train at the academy with Joe Butler, Curly Alexander. Still mess with those guys, but I just keep it moving, man. I just keep it moving.
Right on, man. I assume you've watched all of that hip hop documentary. I just knew what it was. Not Hustle and Flow. The one about the history of hip hop stuff. I can't remember what it's called.
a lot of stuff on Netflix. that has to do with the hip hop documentaries. I've seen a lot of that. But there's also a new one that's coming out where the graffiti artist and tattoo artist, his name is Cartoons. He did a lot of the tats for a lot of the stars that were around at the time and still to this day. And he started off as a graffiti artist. So there's a documentary about cartoons out there that's really dope. But Netflix, man, has had a lot of documentaries about the culture itself, and I think it's dope. So it just shows you that rap music is the number one genre of music in the world. The culture has been copied from all different types of countries. So it's something I'm proud to have been a part of and still be a part of. So I think it's all dope, man. All documentaries that has anything to do with hip hop is dope.
Well, man. Well, hey, I'll let you get back to what you're doing, get back to your kids and stuff. It was great chatting with you. Hopefully we'll do this again soon, man.
Well, Mr. Rogers, all I was doing, man, was eating. So I'm gonna get back to eating, brother.
All right, man. We'll talk to you later, man.
All right, they gonna tag me, man.
All right. Hey, be sure to give us a subscribe and follow, and check out Houston, man. What a fun interview. Subscribe down below, set the bell. We just had a fight go live 30 minutes ago. We'll be back soon as soon as I set up another interview. Bye.